but it has been extraordinarily helpful, as you had just said, in terms of finding them those dubs. And I think it plays into Lasber's playstyle no matter the build. That's the thing I think that's really eye-opening, is that she really fits in whether you're building heavy assassin or you're building bruiser. Most of the time you're still going to be building bruiser, but she plays both styles very well.
It's also interesting to note, we talked a little bit about these hunters with Baron, what Panda Cat loved to run. Don Zaburo has also been one of the top picks of the Jade Dragons for the entirety of the year. It is tied for their most picked and only one win ahead of their most winning god. So maybe we see some Don Zaburo now with some of the changes to the Mace tree. Maybe a little bit of ability damage focused towards him, though the bow build has been working out successfully for him with the crit. But in these picks and bans already, we're seeing a lot of the same stuff that we had seen in previous weeks of play. Khepri and Odin taken away by the Bolts. Hell, Artio on the other side for the Dragons.
The Odin's the one that catches my eye the most, but it's only because he's been so devoid of most of the other sets as of lately. I mean, even looking... I guess just back to last week. Well, last week he was banned in 9 of the 14 games, so maybe it's not as far-fetched as I thought. He's just not been somebody, at least in that last set and some of these others, that has been as prominent lately. But the Bolt's still putting a lot of credence into it. I actually am really excited to see what they first pick, because, well, one, Tiamat's open, but there's just so many good gods right now, it feels like. And me and you have been having this conversation off and on about Raijin versus Tiamat, and I'm not firmly planted on the Raijin side, but I'm standing over there. Like, I definitely drew the line in the sand and said, hey, I'm over here hanging with him in terms of the mid laners that I think are more presiding. But there's also like the Osiris, the Erlang Shin Mifflin had mentioned earlier. This was banned last set, so I guess we're getting a good peek at something.
Am I seeing that? Is that a Chiron first pick?
Yeah.
And a Geb immediately on the other side for the Jade Dragons. Look, I know we just went through a big 8.9 patch, but the fact that Tiamat and Raijin are both open, and then all of these other gods that we were talking about previously, Serket, which has been a big factor for both of these teams, that's still available, but instead the Bolts and the Dragons are already going immediately off kilter. We're seeing Chiron, Geb, Uller as the first 3 gods locked in here in Game 1.
You go back to, what was it, end of Phase 1? Wow, that seems like so long ago, but that's when Chiron, like end of Phase 1 into the beginning of Phase 2, was when Chiron was a massive player. And I will give him credit, Panda Cat, who I think started really pushing that one forward for the rest of the team. Geb was mentioned earlier. I mean, we've already talked about Uller today, so you can go back and listen to those. Geb was mentioned at the very beginning of this desk. And Geb Uller as a combo can do a lot of damage, a lot of control in the duo lane, but Geb is, in my mind, in a similar position as someone as like Ganesh, where you're not really looking at your levels 1 through 5 as like this most impactful, or level 1 through 4. Once you hit 5, that's when your stride really starts to pick up and you can be a little bit more impactful.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, looking through here, this might be the first time that we've seen Kuzenbo locked in by the Olympus Bolts. I don't think we have seen them play this god as of yet this year as a whole. Tying in with those gods we've been seeing a lot of already today, Sylvanas on the opposite side here for the Olympus Bolts. They've locked in their support, so now I can only assume that this Kuzenbo is going to be going over towards the solo lane. Now the Jade Dragons have their 3rd and final pick before we go into the 2nd round of bans. At the moment, they're currently hovering Sol.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't mind this. It's been a very good pick for Herowind all year, and it fits pretty well into their mid lane. The thing that's most interesting to me, and I think that you didn't touch on too heavily, like not just the first Kuzenbo, but the fact that they lock it with a Sylvanas makes it even more, not questionable, but a lot more difficult for them to, I want to say, make it perform the way that we're used to. They've been banning it a lot more recently. They did it against the Warriors when the Warriors were giving them a lot of control and trouble. And so I'm excited to see what they're going to be able to do with this in their hands.
I think maybe the Warriors inspiring a few teams, kind of showing them what Kuzenbo is capable of doing. But usually we've been seeing it from Neil coming from support role. We haven't seen a solo lane Kuzenbo in what feels like eternity at this point. It's probably only been realistically maybe a season's worth of time, but the fact that there's really only 1, maybe 2 players as a whole picking up this god, and now we're seeing him come in the solo lane of all places, is kind of where the real curveball comes from this pick. Jade Dragons, they looked at Sol, but instead it's going to be another pick we haven't seen in a while. Morgan Le Fay, but a Scotty ban, a direct shot at Barracuda. Okay, how many games has Barracuda played Scotty? I'm very curious to know. And
like in general, or like this year?
Like just this year.
Because I think this year, I think he's the one Scotty that's been played.
It is probably what, 1 game, I think? Maybe 1? And throw Ho Yi in there, because I don't think now.
Nope, sorry, Panda played her.
Okay, Panda. Panda played that. And then a Hou Yi as a next ban, Serket and Hunbots on the opposite side. This draft is all over the place, Gore.
So I keep track of some weird things, obviously. Right. It's part of, I want to say part of my job, but I think it's just who I am.
It's a byproduct of your job.
Yeah, well, it's part of who I am as a human. That is one of the things that I started doing after I noticed, hey, okay, well, we have like 5 gods left that still have yet to be picked this year, was I wonder who's been banned. Like, who has and hasn't been banned. So that is another one off of that ridiculous list that I have no reason to keep. But Scotty, I mean, it must say something about the Bolts. Barra likes Scotty, but so does PandaCat. And I think PandaCat understands a little bit of the matchups and understanding a lot of these buffs. If ability-based hunters are going to come back, Scotty is going to ride with them. Not exactly what I expected to see coming into this, but it does keep me excited.
And a Cthulhu off the tail end of the ban. So we see a Scotty Hou Yi ban, a Hunbot Serket ban, and then a Cthulhu as a first pick for the Jade Dragons. This draft is all over the place, and not something I would have expected jumping into 8.9 to see all of these guys. Even Morgan Le Fay, I kind of just grazed past that, but Tiamat and Raijin are still available, and they went past both of those, initially looking at Soul, and instead lock a Morgan Le Fay, who we have seen basically none of for the latter half of Phase 2 and jumping in Phase 3, but now taking it here in the top 3.
She jumped in when she got like available for SBL play for like 3 weeks, where she was like highly contested, highly contended. It had a good win rate, at least at the beginning. And then she disappeared heavily, and honestly, for maybe good reason. Again, it's just because those other two you had mentioned, in my eyes, are a little bit stronger. This is actually where things get interesting. I'm willing to think that this Chiron might be mid.
Yeah.
Because this is something that not only have the Bolts really like to do, but it fits out well. That still changes that entirely, so I'm glad I said it before that was locked in, just to make sure I got the 2 cents in. But that is something Vin likes to do, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see something like that this set.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. You know, the Chiron was locked in as a first pick, but there were 2 Hunter bans by the Jade Dragons in the second half of it, maybe trying to sway this Chiron to be forced towards that duel.
The old Mace tree is feeling a little bit better nowadays.
It really is, man. Jotun's Wrath gets a cost reduction. Everything else in the Mace tree gets a little bit of additional power added onto it. PandaCat might actually be going towards the Jotuns inside of that first slot if he is keeping his eye towards those abilities. We know what's catching my eye, Dave.
Tell me.
Meditation. It's selected for both Awesome Jake and Polar Bear Mike here, both gods that generally benefit from Blink to really make sure that initiation is ringing true, but instead it's just Sustain as the name of the game between these two as of right now. Gotta think that Meditation likely favors the Sylvanas a little bit more. Not only is it pulse HP heal, but it also gives you some more mana, and that means that Wisp is going to be available more often than not.
That plus the new passive on Sylvanas might feel doubly good for Awesome Jake as the game goes on. PBM on a pick that I called earlier on today, Miff. I brought up the Geb. I said, I wonder if we see it. We see it. Mike could fall for first blood, though. Barracuda stunned in place. And that was an important one. Both meds will top off some of the health bars. Mike's still somewhat low here. That'll give Barracuda with full mana the advantage against PandaCat with next to no mana. A 5-stack Benevolence meta there for a little while. That has gone by the wayside, and we really haven't even seen Benevolence since, except for a support here and there. Lasbro looking for the red buff invade, but at what cost? His first blood that cost. That's a nice bit of escape from Lasbro, but the chase is on now from the Jade Dragons. You have to imagine first blood right around the corner. Can Hurrywin close this gap quick enough? Will Sam for Soccer be the one to grab first blood? Find out this week in game number 1, and Sam for Soccer is the one who picks it up. Some fighting on the left side as well, though. PBM still level 2. This Geb has been punished early on.
He's not completely out of it just yet, just now ticking over to level 3 to match up against Awesome Jake, but certainly not a great start for PBM inside of the long lane.
Oh, Venenu is level 5 here. Lasbra's not, though. Sam for Soccer will take over to level 5 after the second kill of the game. Rolls through. Venenu in danger of being collapsed on here and used his teleport out. Oh, no, he didn't. Sent out the Sikkim. The old Sentinel got me all tripped up there. Venenu able to get out in the mid lane, but a great start for the Jade Dragons. The jungle specifically off to a 2-0 start. Hurrywin benefits from both assists. There's always the threat that Susano brings.
Man, Lazarus has got to be so tilted at this point. I mean, gets punished for invading the red buff, tries to walk out of base, gets punished for trying to do that around his own back camps, and now finds himself 0-2, but experience tells a different tale. The Olympus Bolts right now have an XP lead as a team.
First item pick up here for Lasbra, and the set myth has just been kept so far behind. That's got to be such a weird inflection point now where Lasbra likes getting aggressive early. We know that he's the type of player to do that. when you find yourself 0-2 in the hole, you probably feel extra pressure to continue farming things up here. Great pull in on the PBM. Will the Geb finally fall? No, the shield will only delay his life for a little bit. Barracuda picks up the first. Panda Cat jumps back in. And in fact, he's in the back line. Typhoon through, and Sanford Soccer will put down Barracuda. Lasbra, though, rotates on in. Will Sanford Soccer be shut down? It's a big route back in the game. Lasbra with the double. And the Olympus Bolts have evened things back up.
Man, Lasbra needed that rotation pretty badly. The Jade Dragons getting slightly over-aggressive here. Lasbra has spent so much time hovering here. He essentially has to get the kill. I mean, if the Jade Dragons know he's there, I haven't seen any indication of it, but they're not stepping up whatsoever.
Yeah,
Lasbra, what's it been, like 45 seconds now? He's just springing the trap.
You gotta get the jump out of Panda Cat, and Lasbra's got to be able to collapse in on that. Panda Cat jumps away. Lasbra in to close the gap. Stun connects on the backside. Lasbra will survive, and a little bit of healing from Awesome Jake will keep the set on the map twofold. Sanford Soccer rotating in, has Blink. Looks like Lasbra's going to be able to get out. It had taken a little bit of time for the Bolts to wind up. At least in the early game, in Game 1 of the new update, the Olympus Bolts have looked okay. Sanford Soccer knew Lasbra was there, and before my eyes, he is missing. Sanford Soccer deletes Lasbra from the map. Now all 4 kills of the Dragons with the Susanoo, but have to take advantage of if Lasbra, if Haddix, even Awesome Jake, Barracuda maybe, depending on where the old Gallop finds its way. Everyone's going to have to use every ounce of that kit to keep himself safe. Looked at is the Gold Fury by Barracuda and Awesome Jake. Vanenu's here. You got great secure on the objectives thanks to this Scylla. I'm a Monster. Could make quick work of this. Crushes down Venenu in the I'm a Monster, and the Jade Dragons steal it away underneath the nose of Venenu, and they get a kill. Panda Cat snags one onto Awesome Jake. That is horrible outcome from the Gold Fury for the Bolts. I mean, you're miscalculating that by, I mean, a tiny bit of damage. We'll get a look back at exactly what happened. Crushes down. I'm a Monster's down.
That can't be happening.
I mean, there was a sliver of HP after the crush was detonated and the I'm a Monster went off.
Instead, this is what happens when you mess that up. You miss it by a pixel, it's going to get picked up by the opposition.
Right, it's a small miss from Venenu that has a big impact on the game. Fino K getting whittled down. It's actually a lot of damage finding its way onto this Cthulhu. Look at the damage that Fino K is returning. Lasbra will do his best to chase down Fino, and the tower dive works out. Lasbra back on the board. 4 kills for both junglers. One of them's got 3 deaths, though, and it's Sanford Soccer that has dealt a lot of that to Lasbra. Could be a great opportunity here for Sam, looking to Venenu. Instead, we'll pick up the red buff. The early bubble for Sanford Soccer will help him run down picks just like this. Forces out I'm a Monster from Venenu. Walk away, but does a good bit of damage to Hurrywin on the back end.
Awesome Jake might have the flank here early. Beats Hurrywin to avoid the knockup. Should spell the end of it.
Nope.
Pull, no good. Jade Dragons just going to walk away from this one throughout the entirety of this game. 4-1-0. On this Susanoo now looking to go towards a little bit more burst inside of the build, potentially Heartseeker as the selection here. I mean, he's got one-shot potential.
Barracuda is just going to get jumped on, but Lasbra was here to help out his ADC. Sanford Soccer will complete the kill, and no res chance for Barracuda. Lasbra was there, but so was Sam, and right now this Susanoo is just looking more threatening. Wonder what he will pick up as his second relic. It is the Magic Shell. So Shell plus Med, seems like keeping his teammates alive is on the mind of Awesome Jake here with his relic choices. Fury is back up. Primal this time.
Good lord.
Why wouldn't Sanford Soccer take this opportunity?
What?
Barracuda has to gallop away, but Sanford Soccer able to get back in. Barracuda uses his ultimate. Haddix rotates through, finds the first kill of the fight, but watch out. Big ol' Cthulhu right down Main Street. And is chasing down all of the Olympus Bolts. Panda Cat's got
shield
Haddix dead in his face, but Venenu's able to turn one around as well. This fight far from clean. Haddix will not get the kill on the Panda Cat, not just yet.
Whoa!
Through, killing spree for the Uller.
Panda Cat almost killed himself on the reflect. Jake trying to finish up the job, misses
nice
the
dodge.
pull. Maybe the life steal has to stick around. Nice shield.
Big shield from PBM, and it's a double kill for Panda Cat from like 100 HP. The play was perfect from the Jade Dragons Hunter. All but one have died, and it's Venenu left walking away. Fino K, huge in that fight. The rest of the Jade Dragons step up as well. Venenu could get chased down here. Crush will apply the slow. If nothing else, Myth, we got a Fury taken down by the Dragons as well as 4 kills.
That whole fight starts off great for the Dragons when Sanford Soccer is able to isolate Barracuda, force out the Gallop where he was, so so they give up a little bit of that positioning. And again, that goes to show how much respect the Jade Dragons are putting on Ven in particular right now. If this Scylla dies at any point and it's a clean pick for the Jade Dragons, expect them to immediately gun down this Fire Giant. Instead, they have to play it a little bit slower, generate threat, and force the Olympus Bolts to walk in.
Dragons not a team that love playing slow, though. The Fire Giant started up here. The Olympus Bolts will call them on it. Haddock's close by. Thorns ready to go on this Kuzenbo. Fine, okay. Gets his bubble popped. So one bit of CC immunity now missing for the next 30 or so, or for the next minute or so, rather, from this Cthulhu. Fire Giant soft reset, still down. Beneath half HP, Lasbra spotted out by a ward here. Haddock somewhat low for what you'd like on your frontliner to start off one of these fights. You could say the same for Awesome Jake. Polar Bear Mike, that's where my eyes go. I want to see that ultimate get some chunk damage onto the Olympus Bolts if he's able to find it.
A sizable lead around him, so can play a little bit more aggressive inside of these engagements. I'm really excited to see which one of these two squads is really going to step up to the Fire Giant. Keep your eyes on the left-hand side. Lasbra thought about clearing out that wave, but had he shown himself, would have opened up the door for exactly this. Fire Giant pulled anyway.
That's right. Lasbra's going to have to get back from base. He's got to do it quickly. I don't know if Lasbra has
30.
the speed
That's
to
the
get
confirm.
to the FG. Ultimate goes out and catches on to Venenu.
What?
The Bolts? What are you kidding me? The Bolts stealing away. What in the world goes wrong? The Jade Dragons started. Centaurus from Vera. Say his name, baby. Barracuda steals it away. Awesome Jake stunned in place. The Jade Dragons will at least get one.
Fire Giant on 4 members, but they lose out on Awesome Jake for 40 seconds. The Jade Dragon still healthy, but it was expensive. A lot of resources used to find that kill into Sylvanas, so maybe they don't stick around for the Phoenix. Like another 5-6 minutes in this game.
Oh, the Bolts stole away an objective. It's Venenu, right? For sure. It's
Surely.
Venenu. No, we're on board with Barracuda.
He's so far.
My goodness, I missed it. I will completely admit that I'm looking at Venenu. I'm expecting him to walk up. I'm expecting I'm a monster to come over the wall. It gets stolen away, but Venenu's running the other direction. I have no idea where that comes from, and it's Barracuda.
That last slot, trying to make up for the fact that PBM has elected to go for a slightly more selfish build for the support. I like what we're seeing from the Jade Dragons. Now, fine, okay, kind of baton passing with PBM saying,
Yep.
all right, I'm going to be the sole initiator. Fight around me. You're going to be a little bit tankier.
Myth, the script has been flipped a bit here for the last, I don't know, 15 minutes of this game. The Jade Dragons have been pushing.
But instead, Lasbra realizes, okay, it's more than likely that Sanford Soccer is going to bring slightly more value to this team fight than I will, considering he's got AoE from the Typhoon as well as one-shot potential in the carries. So Lasbra hovers very close to his team inside of the jungle, just acting as goaltender, making sure that Susano can't engage, but you didn't go deep enough, and look where Sam is.
Primal Fury is so awkward. Primal Fury ends up getting taken down by the Dragons. The Bolts did not want to stick around any further. Fino K has caught the carries in the back line. I'm a monster! Decimates the health bar of Panic Cat. Barracuda nearly gets the execute yet again. But look at the confidence Venenu's got now. He's waltzing forward with Haddox and the rest of the team at his back.
Now Fino K just trying to generate some space for his squad. The Jade Dragons, though, maybe don't realize how strong this chase is from the Bolts. Haddox going through the lane, Ven through the jungle, and Lasbra right behind him.
Nobody's got ultimates here outside of the transformation for Panda Cat. Bede's still
We're
there
back.
for the Uller. We're right back to the Tier 2 tower. Fire Giant buff is falling off of everyone, and the Jade Dragons, with their recalls, will tell you all you need to know. We're headed back to base. The Tier 2 is going to go down. Still at like an 8,000 gold lead are the Jade Dragons. Over time, might get taken down a wave, pushed up pretty far there. You can say the same about Tier 2 and mid. But no Phoenixes really feeling under pressure for either team. Both teams may be okay with hanging out and doing this dance just a little bit longer. Venenu with some aggressive positioning here. He's around the corner. It is risky. If anyone from the Jade Dragons steps forward, Venenu could delete them, but could simultaneously be deleted just as quickly. Karon's coin late in the build here for Venenu. Can that percent pin do some work? Yes, it can. PBM's health bar nearly entirely gone. Venenu has to leave, though. Lots of damage from Sanford Soccer. Found its way onto the mid laner. Lasbra lurking over to the right. PBM, Hurrywin, Panda Cat, all low. Fino K, plenty healthy. He'll dash in here, but he is all alone. Can you get the kill onto Ven? No, Ven will transport himself out. Lasbra still alone in the back. He has to use the Aegis, but he will end up going down. Hurrywin picks up the first around the FG.
And Fino K still generating so much space. Might get caught out here. If he gets CC'd, could lose his life. But the Fire Giant, it's burning fast. Haddox, the only one far enough forward. He's low HP.
Fire Giant is low here. Haddix, Awesome Jake, Venenu,
It's going down.
Barracuda, they're the only ones close, but there's no ultimates to steal, and the Jade Dragons find enough space to take the enhanced Fire Giant. Haddix now looked at as well. Final K will send the route towards Venenu, Barracuda, and Awesome Jake. Haddix blinks away here, and it looks like the Bolts will be able to scurry back to their base. They're going to have to defend against all 5 with enhanced Fire Giant.
Awesome Jake hasn't backed, and
can't
neither
go
is
back.
Haddix. They're so low HP. This Phoenix is going down absolutely for free. Worth noting, though, watch Panda Cat's mana. He's just about
Haddix had to go back to base here. Panda Cat sends the last bit of damage to the right side Phoenix, and 36 minutes in, a Phoenix has been broken. And the Jade
Clear out these tier 2 towers, remove some of that defense, some of that kind of HP scaling on the Titan, and set yourselves up for a much easier time once you do decide to start stepping in.
Man, Final K has done a lot of work here this game. Oni Fury,
Here?
are we fighting over the Oni Fury? The Bolts steal
Dead?
away, but what's the cost? Venenu trying to get out with the
Fine,
top
wants
damage
him.
in the game. That's a Cthulhu chasing him down. PBM deletes Haddix elsewhere. Lasbra falls as well. Final K chasing down the carries.
Wow.
And I'll breathe for a moment. Yeah, that's kind of
Does
unfortunate.
not make a lot of
That's a
sense.
tough call. Appreciate the patience, everyone. We will go back in the game. Venenu did survive. Haddix and Lasbra on a 1-minute timer. So it's going to be the 3 last members of the Bolts trying to get it done. No ult for Venenu. Big confirmable damage now missing. Barracuda halfway to his ultimate. And the Jade Dragons might be able just to walk this one down mid.
40 seconds left on the nearest respawn, but that's so much time to work with that I think the Jade Dragons make the right call in stripping away this tier 2
why not?
tower. They can go for the Phoenix, and it still will likely be another 20 seconds left on the Bolts allies to come back up. Jade Dragons playing with house money at this point.
Venenu's got to go big alongside Barracuda. I mean, a frontliner and 2 carries, maybe that's what you want, defending your Titan. But the Jade Dragons, they can walk in, they can ignore a couple members of the Bolts here. The Bolts just have to do more damage. Panda Cat has taken a lot, crushes down,
slow.
and crushes misses target, shielding across all of the Jade Dragons. Awesome Jake taken low, but the Titan's lower. Game 1 to the Dragons.
And you can
But
see
it
it a little more consistently throughout all of this. Honestly, and we'll watch it when it happens, but if the Bolts didn't get that Fire Giant, this game ends much quicker in favor of the Dragons. A lot of it is leaning in their direction. A lot of really good kills. Sam has a nuts early game. At one point, I think he was like 4-1 and was really a hefty hand in terms of all of their kills. Panda Cat just got to do Panda Cat things, man. It's so ridiculous. Like, it was moments like this one where you are so low, where you are and should be dead, but then you get a nice saving shield at the very end from the Geb. The fact that he is alive here, one, insane. The fact that he lives to tell the tale, thanks to a good Geb shield there, ends up making it even more impressive. Just good communication from the Dragons, and of course the way they played it. And again, right here, if it isn't for the fact, like, literally any other hunter, if it's not Chiron and this steal doesn't happen, I think we really start to see the Dragons just steamroll over the Bolts. But luckily enough for them, Barra was able to get that. It helped equalize things, but didn't really shift it back into their dynamic.
It's mostly just a delay of game over anything else.
Yes.
You highlighted if they don't take that, they probably lose off the tail end of that Fire Giant. But because they got it, gives them just enough power, enough sustain to push the Dragons back for a little while longer. Then, one of the only objectives that actually got started and finished by the same team was the enhanced Fire Giant by the Jade Dragons. They picked that up later on in the game and are able to push forward and win game number 1. Set Susano, so many different gods picked in. We saw a Scotty ban of all things. I mean, this is a set of unpredictability, and I'm just going to open up with I don't even know what priority is going to be for these two teams. We saw Artio, Hell, and Yamoja be the priority bans for the Jade Dragons in game 1. You think we'll see a repeat of those bans here in game 2?
Maybe from the Bolts, probably not from the Dragons. I mean, since their first pick, any of those that get through, they get immediately. I'm wondering though, if we assume the same top 6 bans, I wouldn't be surprised if you told me that the Dragons first pick Geb. That Geb looked amazing for them, and honestly, there didn't seem to be much answer from the Bolts. The downside is they would give up a whole ton in the process of getting there, so there is a little bit of pressure, maybe not even on them, to pick up a pick like that. And I don't know, it's been a while since we've seen Jake play Geb. I think he's played a couple of games in his career, but it's not necessarily the go-to style for the support for the Bolts. I'm sure he has it in his pocket and under his belt, but it's definitely a change of pace, I think. And the Bolts are going to be the ones who get to determine. I mean, if things like Artio are left open or Hell are left open, I imagine the Dragons scoop that up first.
I mean, you look at what was picked in that game. and you looked at what was banned. One of the big things that stuck out to me when we were sitting back in the green room was Tiamat didn't get even looked at all. Raijin, not even an issue from either of these teams. There's a Morgan Le Fay who was on her release in that top 3. It was one team gets Tiamat, the other gets Morgan Le Fay, or one team bans Tiamat and they get Morgan Le Fay, and then kind of Raijin as a default. Neither of those two gods looked at it all in game number 1. They both just fell to the wayside as far as the drafts were concerned. But here in game 2, a little bit of similarities between the bans, maybe just a couple of them flopping sides here. Khepri and Yamoja by the Dragons, RTO and Odin by the Bolts.
I know we were talking about it on the way here. We were looking it up. So the Dragons, except for one set that they have played against the Bolts, have always won the first game. And again, for the only one of them that really mattered, they ended up winning that set in the Phase 2 playoffs. But this one has a lot of weight behind it as well. But it's one of those credences where they've always stumbled in games 2 and then game 3. And that's not just the case with the Bolts. I mean, there's a reason that they are the team with the most games played this year, and it's because they tend to do really well. I mean, we've seen some 20-minute stomps by the Dragons in game 1, and then game 2 gets pushed to 40 minutes, game 3 gets, swapped around, and maybe they're the ones getting stomped in like 25. And so I think that the fact that not only is that an elongated game, but also something that it tends to go the way of the Dragons anyway, I'm anxious to see how they adjust their early game here to see if they can amp it up the way they wanted to. I mean, like, you have to look at what they're playing. Like, the Geb, he's not the early game screaming front line that your team wants. He can do some work, but realistically, he is going to excel in that mid to late game.
A Cthulhu for a final ban along with Hell from the Jade Dragons. So throwing a lot of respect towards fine. Okay, 32,000 player damage, and if you look back at what his slash line was that game, is 1-1-4. But you're telling me a 1-1-4 Cthulhu does 32,000 damage.
Exactly.
You highlighted he didn't really get a whole lot of kills or even assists to his name with it. But if you're able to put 32,000 damage just for existing, who cares about the kills at that point? It's a pick that needs to be taken away, and it will be a Geb first pick. Going one more time for Polar Bear and Mike, and a Chiron Ymir on the opposite side, and Hunbat's Ullers. We're starting to see that Hunbat's come back here in game 2.
I actually really like this Ymir, although it feels, and it's a little bit of a double-edged blade. It's a little early, and so now they know that they can pick people who have leaps or some sort of disengage to get away from a Ymir, but that also comes at, the cost of a cooldown for a cooldown, right? If you have follow-up and chase-up, the Bolts are going to be just fine with it. It does catch Geb out, though, and that's actually really big. Being able to lock him down, roll out, it's a great ability. Gives you CC immunity, you can knock people back, you also cannot travel through walls, so that is going to be something that in the jungle could potentially isolate this Geb, but Hunbats will be able to leap over the wall, Uller will as well. They still have ample time to choose a mid laner. Hey, guess who's still available? Raijin, Tiamat, both of them who still have, guess what, leaps that they can get over the wall with. And so maybe it's not going to be as potent as possible, but knowing that you're going to force a leap out of them, and that would be just from the wall, you can then collapse it. You've got a lot of chase with the Chiron and the Hu Yi, plus that doesn't even factor in the freeze and the beads that you're going to be able to get. The problem I see right now, though, is that the Dragons have Gebel, Cataclysm, and then the Hunbat's Fear No Evil. Those are ridiculously good teamfight ults, and they've got 2 of them. Nice big old circles that they're going to be able to jump forward. Ymir ult has nothing on that. The Hu Yi Suns can kind of hold a candle to it, but I think the Dragons, especially in those 3-on-3 in mid, but into the 5-on-5s, they're going to be burning somebody's beats.
I think it's very telling looking at the top SPL bans provided here in the middle. We see RTO was highlighted in the very beginning of the day in the waiting room. You mentioned and shows here this god is the only god that has been 100% banned so far. Hell has made it through a couple of times, but Tiamat, the interesting one, 44% of games so far in Phase 3 has she been banned away. That doesn't include what she's been picked. And now with potentially 2 games for this set that she's not even going to be looked at by 2 teams is maybe starting to tell of how much less, I would say, I'm not going to say how little, but maybe how much less these teams are really looking at this mid lane mage. It's a Giannis and Soul banned away by Bolts, and a Cerberus Sobek. Cerberus is actually an interesting one that made it so far down into the depths of these drafts, because in set number 1, Cerberus was a god that was being first pick, first ban. Usually it was the first ban coming from both of those teams.
And he's been one of the more dominant picks in Guardians just that we've had in solo lane as of late. So again, kind of surprising not only to see him get glanced over in some of these, but also the fact that we had Kuzenbo picked up before him and over him last game. It's happening again here for the Bolts, and I'm going to go ahead and say that only because I can't, Ymir can solo lane, but I can't imagine taking it from Jake. That's the only thing
Yeah.
that is stopping me from throwing him over there. It's also interesting to me, I mean, the Giannis the Soul, those are very, very specifically Jade Dragon fans towards Heroind. But it kind of is eye-opening to me. The Bolts are a team that has in the past favored and do not shy away from playing hunters in the mid-roll, and especially as we had highlighted in Waiting Room, and we've kind of had this conversation a couple of times, mid-hunters right now, if you're going to go Hu Yi, you can throw the Uller, you could throw a Chiron, you could throw a Neath. Like, there are plenty of hunters that can work out well there and look really good in the process.
With Chiron and Hu Yi locked in, surely we might be seeing this Chiron go towards mid lane. Hu Yi most likely in Barracuda's hands. And just as much as we were talking about the fact we didn't see any Tiamat, we didn't see any Raijin in game 1, well, they prove us wrong here. Game number 2, Raijin as a 9th pick. Not something I get to say every day, not something I thought I would ever say in the current condition of Raijin for these mid lane metas. The fact that he is being 9th picked, not even looked at, not even the fact that Tiamat was grabbed and they were just waiting, saying, okay, whatever, Tiamat, we don't have to pick Raijin away. It was immediately, is normally where Raijin is grabbed. First pick or first, top 2 kind of thing. Even I would go as far as saying a top 3 pick at all times for these teams. The fact he's getting 9th picked and now a Camazotz as a 10th pick. How are you kind of liking this Bolts draft as it's kind of lined itself out here?
The same, and I think big initiation, burst damagey style jungler for Sam for Soccer is an important one to look at here, because Sam, as J-Mac talks about, loves this style of pick, the Hunbat specifically, and we've already seen some success, Miff, out of the Hunbats already here this weekend.
Yeah, I've got great expectations for Sam for Soccer here, man. It's a god that he's got a lot of tenure playing, and it's one that he was trying to go towards even before the Assassins were buffed out. It's going to be up pretty shortly afterward. I think, if anything, I'm keeping my eyes on PBM. Elects to go for the Horrific Emblem very early on, a very aggressive selection out of your support, but yeah, I think it is a match where he really does have to keep his eyes towards that Blink, needs the ability to close gap on the Olympus Bolts.
Yeah, Sunder then I think becomes a topic of conversation. We haven't seen it much in the last couple of sets, counting this one. When there's a Nike on the other team, Sunder always has its day in court. And so actives actually, relics, become a pretty important topic of conversation as we start to hit that level 12 mark. We'll be able to follow along and see. Freeze wall, all of it sent out from Awesome Jake here. Looks like the purple buff actually gets dropped down by the Olympus Bolts, so a sneaky steal for the Bolts despite 3 members of the Dragons being close by, and the pressure on left paying off. Venenu takes a little bit of damage here from Hurrywin in the mid lane, has to drop the Suns, backs away. As Hurrywin actually left worse for wear after that fight. Purple buff dropped down.
Great shield.
Panda Cat will pick it up. Great shield, as you point out, from PBM to keep Panda Cat where he is. Lasper's lurking on the left side of the map here. There's a quick ward just further to the right. Now Lasper, I think, able to avoid just a little bit. Polar Bear Mike on the other side of the wall. Barracuda! What happened to his health bar? That's Panda Cat. And Lasbro was there, but I'm not sure this is a fight the Bolts want to take any longer. Gem is what it looks like here for Hurrywin Miff. You'll get some decent burst damage early in the game.
Yeah, that's going to help out a fair bit for Hurrywin, but I think that it is generally still going to be a very slow build for him here. It isn't going for a huge power spike early on. Instead, kind of keeping his eye towards the team fight.
Oh, we might be fighting.
Yeah, maybe an invade instead.
Might be scrapping a bit here. Venenu's got Sam for Soccer around the backside. Up in the air he goes. And back to the rest of his team. Breaks the Suns down as well. This is great disengage from the Olympus Bolts, but the taunts back through from Hurrywin. The Taiko drums doing a whole lot of work here. Woo! Mike turns it right back around. Is Lasbro going to chase down the support? The answer is no. Raiju is out onto Awesome Jake. Does Jake have a wall to save his life? He's got one, but it's kept Sam right where he is, and it's on top of Jake. Jade Dragons find first blood.
Sam for Soccer completely cannot keep the chase. You better believe had he had just a little bit more mana, he's likely jumping over that red wall and chasing out the kill.
Go, Miff. And J-Mac, pretty apt while it's elementary and it's core. Sam for Soccer just one-shots Barracuda. And man, I'm kind of right yet again there. Sam happy just to throw out Fear No Evils on one target and get the kill.
You've been patting yourself on the back all day today.
It rarely happens. I rarely get stuff right. I have to when I do. I have to.
All right, fair enough. You're right. It is Sam for Soccer throwing out the ultimate on his own against a target that had both beads and ultimate available. Strips both, and the life of Barracuda, opening up the door for this Gold Fury.
For what it's worth, that's not an incredible call on my end at all. Is there a steal potential here? Venenu has the ultimate. Lasper is in the back. Bat out of Hell swoops through, and there's a lot of damage from Venenu and his ultimate in mid, and Ven gets one down. Save for Soccer, teleports back in with the freeze from Jake. Delays out this fight, but it's a full-on sweep. Jade Dragons come up big. They'll get 3, but the Olympus Bolts able to get 2 as well.
Defense both ways, but not necessarily those full dedicated tank items that you expect from your support. This time around, though, is electing to go that path and should be allowed to stand in front of whoever he wants on the Olympus Bolts for a very long time. Sovereignty and the double hunter only feels good.
Gold Fury still stands. It's been a while. Been hanging out 15.5 minutes into the game. Steal. No, the Bolts won't take it away this time. The Jade Dragons snag the Gold Fury for themselves. A little while, and they're back, and they're looking good. At least after game 1 into game 2 here, they're looking good to maybe close out this set 2-0. They'll be in studio again tomorrow for a matchup against the Atlantis Leviathans. That's one to look forward to as well. Haddix, Awesome Jake, Venenu, they'll all step forward here. Barracuda and Lasbra off to the left. Or Sanford Soccer, that's the question you got to be asking yourself if you're the Olympus Bolts here. He's got Blink, and he's got the bubble, so CC immunity will help him out finding some of those engages. Haddix finds his way into the back line, and he's disrupted, and he's pushed Hurrywin back against the wall. Aegis is out for this ride, and on the other side, it's deleted. Hurrywin has not fallen yet, but he will. Haddix finally chases down the mid laner, and look at PandaCat kiting his way backwards, doing a whole lot of damage to Haddix. Sanford Soccer has been left alone elsewhere, and this fight for the Jade Dragons is looking good.
Sanford Soccer left alone, but takes out his sole opposition now, rejoins the fight with Fido K and Haddix. Well, I'm not sure how tanky you really are.
Haddix pushes Fido against the wall, but it's Haddix who's taking a lot of damage. PandaCat on a killing spree. The Ullr's looking just fine, if you ask me. Double kill for Panda, 403 for the Jade Dragons Hunter, and we'll head back for the Fury.
It was a tale of 2 fights for the Olympus Bolts. Haddix dives deep into the back line, isolates Hurrywin with a couple other frontliners, and are eventually able to take out the Raijin, but the dive of the Jade Dragons was much more successful, shutting down Ven and Barracuda. Dragons strip away 1 ward, control a little bit more of that vision, and now have both defensive and offensive vision control around the Fire Giant pit, but do not utilize it. Instead, strip away some more towers.
Yeah, I mean, look at how the Bolts respond. They back up. They now know where the Dragons are.
Too.
But it looks like it could be a quick and easy tier 2 tower. PandaCat doing a lot of damage. Lasbra engages on Sanford Soccer on the left. The jungler's 1v1ing. Fear No Evil is out, but Lasbra into the Battle to Hell is winning the engagement on left, and he gets the kill. Massive pick for the Olympus Bolts. Big outplay from Lasbra as well, and suddenly the winds and the sails of the Olympus Bolts. You've gotten a lopsided trade, and they want to chase down more.
Ven does fall to Final K inside of his own tier 2 tower, and that could spell the end of the engagement here. But one upshot of having 2 hunters means that if one falls, there's still another standing, and Barracuda can generate enough threat on the Fire Giant if the Olympus Bolts decide to head that way. But instead, they want to trade some towers. They want this tier 1.
They're going to walk forward. Haddix will take a little bit of damage from PandaCat here. A little bit becomes a lot as Haddix is just above half HP here. Final K back from base has been able to fully top off those health bars. Lasbra's lurking on left. The man who made the big play over Sanford Soccer gave his team a breath of fresh air in game number 2. Continues to walk forward. Fantastic wall from Awesome Jake, but it's shielded out by PBM, and PandaCat will jump on over. Haddix pins PandaCat right on back, and the Olympus Bolts get a big stagger kill. A minute death timer on Panda.
PandaCat nearly able to return that kill onto Lasbra, but the healing now already ticking him up over 60% of his own HP bar. And you're right, man, having PandaCat dead for 45 seconds is going to be massive for the Olympus Bolts, who are teetering on the edge. It was, what, 8,000 gold in favor of the Jade Dragons. They've got the vision advantage around the Fire Giant itself, but instead go for a little bit of a greedy play, trying to chase out that tier 2 tower and put that one down.
Big Lasbra, you got to look back at him. Another ultimate from Sanford Soccer. This time towards Barracuda, who's now being dove. Centaurus is out. Can Lasbra turn around enough damage to give Barracuda a chance? The answer is no. Sanford Soccer picks up the kill. And the Jade Dragons have flipped things right back yet again. Now Barracuda dead for a minute.
50 entire seconds, actually, Dave. So, PandaCat going to be alive in 5 seconds. It is. Gold Fury, though, Primal Fury, rather, going to be looked at by the Jade Dragons, and that should make it a little bit easier to go for Pyros or Fire Giants in the near future. Still, going to have a long time left to play with while Barracuda.
Plus a little bit of travel time for Barracuda to get on out of base. Maybe a better opportunity spent dewarding and rewarding the backside. But instead, it gets pulled. Hurrywin spotted out. Lasbra's on the left here. Sanford Soccer in behind. Drops a ward down. Will sense Lasbra once Lasbra walks forward. Fire Giant down to half HP. Barracuda's respawn, but he's back in base. Double Fear No Evil from Sanford Soccer. Will get Venenu up and over, go to. But Venenu lives on, drops the ultimate onto himself. Polar Bear Mike's gotten a kill on Lasbra. Elsewhere in this fight now, Haddock's taunted right back in, and Panda Cat's dealing the damage.
Haddock's burning quickly, sumo slam into the wall, only to buy a couple of seconds. Credit to Hurrywin.
Whoa, no, Sanford Soccer's low, Panda Cat's low. Can Olympus Bolts re-engage on this fight? Awesome Jake doesn't think so. Awesome Jake trying to leave. It's carries plus support, all that are left alive for the Olympus Bolts. Panda Cat up and over the wall. Thunder Crash buys time for the stun, buys time for the flurry of damage, but he is tanky. Awesome Jake lives on a little bit longer. Barracuda rotates into this fight as well, but has he done too much? Has he stayed too long? For now, the answer is no, but it becomes yes, as Hurrywin will put him down.
Awesome Jake turns around to watch his fellow duo laner fall down and maybe loses the opportunity to walk out himself. Hurrywin with the damage is going to whittle away at him, and that's the right verbiage. Oh, Jake's
eventually
just too tanky.
Oh, the wall is there. Thunder Crash gets used yet again, and finally it's Hurrywin who silences Awesome Jake. Killing spree.
Lasbra dives deep onto Hurrywin, closes gap, and then dies before he's allowed to use the Bat Out of Hell. This Camazotz can't die that quickly. He can't. He has to apply the damage to Hurry, Vampiric Bats, and then get into the air, forcing the type of drums.
Oh, he steals it! Wow. Steals it away! He'll pay for it with his life! But yet again, the Bolts stay alive, and yet again, it's a Hunter who takes it away. How impactful is it? Two members of the Bolts have the FG. It's Haddox and Lasbra. The Jade Dragons get a pick. They get 45 seconds without the mid, and they'll walk down right.
Yeah, I'll admit, I was talking over it. I thought it was a 0% chance there for the steal to come through, but then comes up big for his team, but at the cost of his life, might also lose a Phoenix.
They might. Olympus Bolts have the FG. As we so often see, when you're behind and you steal, it's more of a delay than anything else, and the Jade Dragons, not wanting to feel delayed, will start to siege up this right side. Phoenix Lasbra taking low. Hurrywin has Thunder crashed into the base of the Olympus Bolts, and he will walk away after using the Taiko drums. Good wall from Awesome Jake, but there's no damage. Nobody is looking at Hurrywin right now as he's been able to Thunder Crash out yet again. Lasbra on left. Sanford Soccer wants to 1v1 yet again. Lasbra puts him down one more time, and Lasbra wins the jungle fight yet again.
And now he's able to chase on through the jungle. The rest of the Bolts should be able to close gap. Blink forward, nice wall!
Oh, it's massive from Jake. It's huge even. The Olympus Bolts, they'll chase their way right back in. Lasbra working around the back. Awesome Jake detonates some damage. What can the Camazotz get done? Not a whole lot. Bat Out of Hell swooping through. Panda Cat waiting on the other end, and it's another good wall from Awesome Jake. A whole series of highlights for the Amir. And the Olympus Bolts get Sam. Lasbra gets Sam.
Use overhead smash inside of a 1v1. You are trading out DPS, but now a look back then makes it look easy.
One old tick of the ultimate is all you need there. Venenu's got it.
33-minute Oni Fury dance I've ever had the pleasure of casting, man. I mean, either team could completely win a game off of a clean team fight here. Olympus Bolts might not have any Phoenix exposed, but this late in the game, it does not matter. Awesome Jake moving forward.
He's got 3 yet again. There was a moment there where the engage could have happened. I chuckled a moment ago. There's something funny about Oni Fury punching a Nene. Awesome Jake walks forward, gets a freeze onto Panda Cat. Some damage on the back end as well, but Awesome Jake has paid for it with half of his health bar. It's Lasbra versus Sanford Soccer, round 3. But Sanford Soccer feeling good about his chances this time around, and Sanford Soccer's got it. The 1v1 to the Jade Dragons this time, and now the Olympus Bolts corralled on in, and look at the collapse from the Jade Dragons. Olympus Bolts putting the dirt. Game 2 comes to a close, and it's the Jade Dragons taking the set.
Is that a triple quadra kill for Panda Cat to close this one out? Lasbra, you ruined it, man. Could have been a penta. The Olympus Bolts, second verse, same as the first. Do not step up to an Oni Fury against the Jade Dragons. 34 minutes into the game. That's exactly where they want you.
And the Jade Dragons will walk this one on in. This game, not without its drama. This set, not without its drama. It'll end with the Jade Dragons on top 2-0. The Olympus Bolts, they put up a fight. They stole away a couple Fire Giants. but not enough down the stretch.
Where it started to slow down is around those Phoenixes. Things got a little more difficult for them. Sam just has a lights-out game. I think everybody on the Dragons had a lights-out game, but I think we've been looking at Sam a lot this year and like seeing this transition, of course, going back to like the style of jungle that we have known and seen him play very well in the past. Fit perfectly. Panda Cat and Mike just had insane plays. Panda Cat, like the Geb Shield saved so many people, but Panda Cat got to look flashy because of it. And so I guess that's like the burden of support is making others look good. And I think this Geb pick just worked out incredibly well for them. It seems like he's going to be working really well. There's a good reason they first picked it here, and I expect that if they're going to continue looking like this, then we have a much heavy-handed contender in the Dragons this phase.
And then what better way to end out the game than a quadra kill from Panda Cat to close everything out? You know, one thing
that's just flashy. It's too flashy for me.
It's too nice. But one thing you brought up at the very end of the death segment going into game 2 was that the Dragons notorious for winning game number 1 of a set, and then losing game 2, and then potentially even game 3 after that. This is one of the first times, I won't say the, but it's one of the first times the Jade Dragons not only win game 1, but they're able to close it out in game 2. And I think this is the only 2-game set that these two teams have had against each other this phase.
Yeah, they have. So the only time, this is the second time the Dragons have beat the Bolts, but it's the only time it's been a 2-0, and no matter what. They've always gone 3 games, which makes this even more impressive that they were able to find that win.
Look at the schedule and see exactly what you may have missed, what you might want to catch up on, or what you can look forward to. Camelot Kings take down the Scarabs 2-1 for our first set of the day. Jade Dragons in the first 2-0 between these two teams, able to get a win over the Olympus Bolts. Tomorrow we'll kick off with the Solar Scarabs and the Oni Warriors, and then the Jade Dragons back in studio again tomorrow. You saw them once, you'll get to see them again against the Atlantis Leviathans this time. And then on Sunday we'll round it out with the Olympus Bolts and the Valhalla Valkyries, and then the Kings and Titans for our final set of the week. Man, what a way to start a weekend where we get 2 appearances of the Dragons in studio.
I love hey, so you know how you guys haven't really played on LAN in 2 years? Back to back, baby.
Here you go. 2 in a row, baby, right after the other. But looking at the standings, it's 2-0 for the Jade Dragons, Atlantis Leviathans, and Tartarus Titans all sitting there tied at the top. The Tartarus Titans, though, do have a 3-game set under their belt. That's why they're sitting at 3rd compared to a tied around 1st. Bolts and Kings are sitting at 4-4, and then Scarabs, Warriors, Valkyries immediately under there at that 6, 7, 8 respectively.